What's up, everybody? It's October 16th, episode 21 of Generation Tech. We got a lot of Apple news for you. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Generation Tech, the weekly videocast for your inner geek, bringing you the hottest tech news from around the world. Brace yourselves, the show's about to start. It's Generation Tech. Here's your hosts, Rich Nieto and Matthew Burrows.
And again, welcome Generation Tech, episode 21. I'm Rich Nieto, aka NYY Fan on Twitter, and I'm joined by Matthew Burrows, aka Matthew Burrows _. What's going on, dude?
Nothing much, man. We got a bunch of Apple announcements and releases that I think some are pretty exciting, some are not so much, but yeah, definitely get into those later in the show.
Yeah, we're going to dig deep into every little announcement. I have a lot of opinions on it. I watched the keynote live from work, so I was live tweeting during the actual event. But let's take a second to talk about this past weekend. We actually met up in Boston, hung out for a couple of days, and we went by your house up in Maine, and did a little sightseeing, drove around a little bit. That was fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Rich's first time up to New England, really any place above
Rhode Island, actually.
Rhode Island, yeah. So that was interesting for him. He thought it was going to be like friggin' Canada up there, middle of Canada. It's not really that different from Massachusetts or New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I'm sure even most parts of New York until you get down by the city.
Yeah, it generally looked the same, like New Hampshire, Maine, northern Massachusetts. It all looked the same. I was kind of expecting some snow there, though, to be honest with you.
It's actually downpouring out right now.
Yeah, well, at least it's not snowing. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. We both vlogged. He vlogged a lot more than I did. You could see his 3 parts on his channel, which will be in the description below for the recorded portion. And I did one big vlog, which was about 20 minutes or so. And, I probably should have vlogged a lot more, especially in Boston. I feel like
I kept trying to remind you, and you always forget.
Yeah. That's how I am in general, dude. Like, I mean to vlog things, but I'm like, shit. I'm like, I'd rather just enjoy the moment than be like, oh, shoot, I gotta take out my camera. Let me look through the photo lens.
That was kind of like the reason why I stopped doing gaming videos on my channel.
Yeah, it makes sense. But anyway, enough about that. If you want to see what we did this past weekend, check out our vlogs on our channel. But onto the actual news. There was a big keynote today, 1 o'clock today, and the main thing was iPads. And
yeah, well, it's kind of the iPad keynote, right? It's the second keynote of the year. Isn't that kind of what they treat it?
Usually the first one is the iPhone. I mean, in recent years, it's been this way. The first one's the iPhone, and the second one is iPads / Macs. So it's a little...
/ extra.
/ extra, whatever they want to throw in. And iPad Air 2, super thin. That's like the big thing about the iPad, is that it's super thin, and it has a better camera, A8 A8X processor, all that fun stuff. But main thing is just its thinness. It's like half the thinness of a pencil. Coming from the iPad Air, which is thin to begin with, that's pretty crazy. And obviously it comes in a gold color. I'm sure you saw. Not too crazy about the gold, so especially on an iPad with all that gold on the back.
Oh yeah, it's too much.
Yeah, to me it's
even the iPhone is too much for me.
Yeah, like the 6 Plus, that in gold is a bit too much.
Yeah,
but to each their own. So they announced it's going to be released next Friday, and pre-orders will be going up tomorrow, Friday, on the 17th of October. And they also...
Are they doing the 3 a.m. type stuff?
Probably. That's usually how it goes. But I'm not... I mean, I'm on the fence about getting it. We'll talk about it later. But I don't think you have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to guarantee getting it on launch day. Not like the iPhone. Usually the iPads, you can actually even walk in the day of launch and get one pretty easily. So no worries there.
Yeah.
But the other things, they announced the iPad Mini 3, which was really disappointing. I mean, I have an iPad Mini Retina, the 2nd generation. I absolutely love it. I love the form factor, the 7-inch size. I actually got it over the iPad Air. I had the iPad Air for a couple of weeks, but once this came out, I returned it because I absolutely love it. Just a couple of things, though. the main reason I got this and not the iPad Air is because they were both the same spec wise. Like they had the
Yeah.
same process, they had the same everything, internals, cameras, same thickness. Um, that's the only reason. Now this time around with both versions, the iPad Air is like here in terms of specs, and the iPad Mini is down here. It's kind of the GIMP version. It has pretty much the same internals as this model, the last year's model, but the only thing it includes extra is the the Touch ID.
Which is literally that's the only thing that they mentioned different. Like I remember after they finished off the tedious 15 minutes of the iPad Air, he's just like, and we'll also be releasing the iPad Mini 3, which will also include the scanner, and that was it. That was all they really mentioned on that. They kind of just showed the specs, and it was still the same internals. I think it has the new A8 chip, but that's about it. No, not a different
Not
camera,
even.
none of that.
It has the A7 chip still.
Oh, it still has the A7.
Yeah.
But I think they're finally like as we had. I mean, before we had the iPad Air, the Mini and the regular iPads are kind of different price wise. It was, if I remember, the iPad 4 or the iPad Retina. Not, I don't remember what it's called after the third one. Right? Is it just the iPad 4?
It was the iPad for you.
And there was like what, a $200 gap in between, because it was $499 and $299 if I remember correctly.
I think it was about $100 difference. It was
Oh, okay.
400 and 500 for the newest version.
But the specs are really different. And when the iPad Mini 2 and the iPad Air came out, the specs were the same. It was just size difference. And I think that's what got a lot of people to buy the iPad Air 2. I mean, sorry, the iPad Mini 2. But I don't think as many people will go for the new iPad Mini this round.
No, definitely not. Considering it's $100 price difference and you're getting a bigger screen, which I mean, to me, screen is all about preference. It's not like bigger screen is better. Unlike the iPhone, which actually the bigger screen is technically better, has a better resolution. But everything else is actually different on this time around between the two versions. And I can see why they're doing it. They want to differentiate the top model from the second tier model, the same way they did with the iPhones, with the 6 Plus and the 6. But I don't like that they're doing that. I think they should keep everything equal and leave it up to consumer to decide which size they want. Not feel like, since I'm getting the mini or the smaller version, I'm getting a lot less in terms of specs and features. I think that's a pretty negative thing for this to go about it.
Yep.
And
I think they're going towards the lone iPad model again, like kind of business model. When they only had the one iPad, they didn't really focus on a lot of anything else at the time, because obviously there's only one. So I think they're kind of going back to focusing on one big one, putting a lot of the new features into it, and kind of not working as much on the lower tier.
It's just a shame though, because they started off the keynote telling how well the iPad Mini was selling. It was like you got 100% customer satisfaction rating. I mean, that's unheard of. That everyone that purchased it is satisfied with it. That is crazy.
That's like, I think that's almost like near impossible to do with any product nowadays.
I mean, usually you get one or two people that
especially with as many people that buy it.
Yeah. But considering all those things, you think they would continue the trend with keeping everything the same between the two models. And that's why if I do get an iPad next week, it would have to be the Air, because there's no way I would get the lesser model. The processor, it's a big jump. The A7 to the A8X, it's a pretty big jump in specs. I have an iPhone 6 Plus, so it kind of also negates the need of an iPad Mini, because there's such a small difference in size in terms of screens. So to me, the Air also makes sense because it's a bigger difference in screen size. And the thinness, that's the biggest thing, how thin the iPad Air 2 is. It's from what I've been hearing, like people on The Verge and all these other bloggers that actually went hands-on after the keynote, they're saying it's impossible to fathom just how thin this thing is, how they made it this thin.
Well, they shaved off like if you look at a pencil, which
It's
I have one.
0.61 millimeters thin.
If you hold like a pencil on a flat side, they took half off the top of that second half. If you have like an old fashioned kind of hexagon shaped, they took half of the second half off. So that thing is crazy thin. Just picturing it, that's like thinner than a Game Boy cartridge.
Oh, by
which
far.
is like similar to the one that we have now.
Yeah. I mean, and they also stacked up 2 iPad Air 2s, and it was still thinner than the first generation iPad. That just shows
Well,
you.
that thing was like a brick.
It is. I mean, I sold my original iPad to my cousin out in California. He still has it. I think he's running like iOS 4 on it because they can't run anything faster.
Time to upgrade.
Yeah, dude, I'm like, he doesn't use it that much, but I mean, it's like if you're gonna use it at all, it's not even usable. It's got to be so slow. But it just shows you how far we've progressed, not just in terms of like processing speeds and stuff like that, but the thinness it's amazing. I mean, even the iPhone wasn't that big of a jump between the original iPhone and the 6 Plus. I mean, it's a big jump, but the iPad is by far a huge jump in terms of size.
Yeah, I feel like we're right around the corner from like that science fiction-esque type thing where it's just like the panel, the screen panel, and that's all that you see. It's like see-through kind of on either side. Because later in the show when we talk about the iMac stuff, they're even improving the thinness of it as well on the edges, which is kind of crazy. Once you hear the specs that we'll be talking about later. But yeah, they're really pushing towards quality of product right now. They're kind of just tightening up and kind of improving on the external features of their products. That's a big thing, and kind of just adding in the CPU upgrades and stuff kind of as a bonus. But I think they're really focusing on how things look and how things function, how they can make it function better and cheaper with power consumption and also materials used.
Yeah. The other thing is they mentioned, excuse me, is the camera was improved, and that's one thing that kind of irks me is when I'm at like a sporting event or like whatever, and I see someone with an iPad, and I have an iPad Air, so I mean an iPad Mini, so it's even not as big of a deal. But when you see someone with their iPad, the huge iPad, just taking a picture, it's like, really, dude? Like, why? It just looks so silly. I mean, come on. Not to mention, most of the time, your phone has a better camera. So why use a lesser camera to take a picture? But
selfie.
I don't know. It's kind of when you read on Twitter, it's kind of like mixed opinions on using an iPad in public as a camera. But I think the majority feel like it's kind of a dumb thing. It just looks weird as hell. Awkward.
I mean, I feel like I was like taking a picture for Rich this weekend when we were in Boston and Salem. I don't remember where it was, but I was like trying to take a picture with it, and I felt like I was gonna drop it just there, just with trying to hold it and take a picture like that. So I don't even want to know how it feels to just have to keep taking pictures with like a tablet. I feel like it's a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, other than the fact that it has a great viewfinder, I mean, you have 11-inch viewfinder. That's the only thing that's good about it. Otherwise, the camera's bad, and it just makes you look really weird. But that's just my opinion. I mean, if you want to use your iPad as a camera, by all means, go for it. But you might get some funny looks doing it out in public.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, especially if you're at like a baseball game, which I've seen it before. I've gone to baseball games, and some moron is there, like, taking a picture with his iPad. It's like, really, dude?
Yeah. And it's only 8 megapixels, right?
Now it is.
That's all it is. Yeah. What was it before? 5?
The Mini is 5, so probably. I don't really pay attention to megapixels.
They're always like one generation behind on camera stuff. I've always felt like that. With MacBooks and I don't know, Thunderbolt displays, the built-in cameras are like junk.
Yeah. I mean,
it's stuff that you had seen in 2012, 2011 for like actual external cameras. They're like just now putting inside
Well, to
the
give them
screens.
credit, if you look at an internal camera like a Dell or some other manufacturer, I mean, it is better than those, but it's never going to be like a Logitech C920 or something like that. Obviously, a standalone.
Yeah.
But just a couple of other notes. iOS 8.1 is going to be released next week, and that includes Apple Pay, which I'm really looking forward to. As I mentioned before, that's going to be released on Monday as part of the iOS 8.1, along with a couple other little improvements from iOS 8. And it's just funny because the whole keynote was kind of like they were really trying to hit like that comedy stuff. I don't know if you noticed when you watched it.
Yeah, like with the Colbert.
Yeah,
It was Colbert,
it
right?
was Stephen Colbert.
That they called on, and I feel like all that stuff's so cheesy. They're like, let me get a live demo of this calling feature, and it's like the most set up feeling thing ever. And they tried to do like a full on like 15-minute skit about Apple security, and it was like, okay, you are going on for about a good 10 minutes now on some fake little thing that you schemed together. It's like, I mean, to be honest, most of the people in there are probably all just there to see the tech specs. So I don't think they really care about, lasers going to the Apple bathroom. And I mean, I know a lot of people criticize like different other events. I mean, competitors' events, and I don't know. I feel like Apple has its flaws too.
I never had a problem with because that guy Craig, he's naturally funny. Like I even said a couple years back when he started doing these keynotes, he's really funny. Like naturally, it just came out naturally. It was hilarious. I found this time they kind of pushed it. Like it was staged. It was pre-planned. It didn't come naturally. And I still thought he was kind of funny, but I mean, it's when the Stephen Colbert thing and a couple of little things were kind of pre-planned, you could tell, kind of scripted. So Apple, just let it go naturally. I mean, if it's funny, it's funny. I mean, comedy and tech, that's a really hard thing to really balance between the two. It really is. So I don't think it comes to the cheesiness of a Samsung event. Like back in the day, remember they had like the whole orchestra thing and like the Broadway play theme. I mean, those are really cheesy. So I don't think it's that bad,
but still, they're kind of like pushing the limits.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen the keynote yet, you can go on the apple.com, and it's under their special events tab. And I mean, you can watch it. It's 78 minutes. It was a little over an hour. And you'll notice a good 50 minutes of it is all on the iPad Air. And then they just kind of rush these next features. I mean, not as much the iMac, but a couple of other things they kind of slid by. I feel like they didn't want to focus on it too much. They kind of did the same thing that we were talking about with the iPad Mini. They didn't stick on things that they didn't deem as important, or they thought that people might get kind of annoyed with that it wasn't updated.
Yeah. So that I think we covered the iPad quite a bit. I'm gonna look to get the iPad Air 2, space gray. I love the space gray. I think the white iPads are, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of them. White.
Oh, you don't want gold?
Oh hell no. I mean, with the phone, I was kind of considering getting the silver maybe, but on an iPad, I don't like the big white bezel. I just don't. I don't like how it looks personally. But yeah, if I were to get an iPad, definitely iPad Air 2. I'm probably gonna sell my iPad Mini, which might be actually going to this kid right there. He might be buying it, so that'd be cool. Say for him to have an iPad again,
or an iDevice, because I mean I have an Android phone, so it only makes sense to have some sort of iDevice with all my Apple products.
Especially since you have Yosemite with your MacBook Pro. I mean, with the continuity, it's really awesome.
And I mean, it will kind of go nicely with all my new white toys that I've gotten lately. I mean, I got a bunch of new things that are just really nice.
Yeah, except the iPad is black, so I mean.
But I know, but I mean,
just joking.
still.
And speaking of which, I mentioned Yosemite. It was released today, a couple hours ago. Yeah. So if you have a Mac with Mavericks, go ahead. We both had the beta for a couple months now, so it's nothing new. But enjoy it.
Like 8 months?
Not 8 months. I mean, I wouldn't say like
6
late
months?
June, early July. I've had it since.
feel like it's been forever.
You had it later. You had it when it was like a public beta. I had it since it was like.
No, because I had to go through that website. Remember?
Oh yeah, it was a bumpy road. Obviously, any beta. It was
Yeah, it
stupid
was
of me
like
to
straight
upgrade
up gangsta jihad.
as early as I did, but hey, whatever. But yeah, let's go over the next thing, which is the iMac with Retina display. Now we've heard the rumors about it leading up to it, but this was announced with a 5K display. They completely just forgot about 4K or 2K. They doubled the resolution of the current iMacs, which what I have right now. It's a 2560 by 1440 display. They jumped it up to, I don't even know, it's 5,000 something to 2880.
70.
I know
Like
it's
3880.
yeah, 2880 is the horizontal. It's like 5,000 something for the other. But anyway, it's a 5K display. That's a lot of pixels. That's a lot needed to drive it.
41 million.
Yeah, I think it's like 14 million, something like that.
Oh, 14. It was a 4 and a 1 in there.
Yeah, I think it was 14. But
yeah, he kind of butchered it when he was talking about it. He kind of like slipped up and he said megapixels. But 5,120 by 2880. So, and I was kind of amazed when I saw the graphic that they made that compares like 1080p to 4K to 5K, and freaking 1080p is tiny.
yeah, I mean, even with my display, I can edit 1080p video and still have it like within a small corner of my entire screen. But you can edit 4K video on this new display and still have screen real estate for like extra clips and stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's like it's ridiculous how the difference. I mean, like the 4K. Okay, so here's a Nexus 7. Pretend this is a screen, and my phone. See, that's like the 1080p equivalent.
Not even. It was even smaller.
I mean, the 4K equivalent. Yeah. And then 1080p is like down here.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it has 7 times the amount of pixels as a 1080p display, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, and it's starting at $2,500, which is actually pretty reasonable considering the quality of display you're getting, and then you're getting a computer in addition to it. I mean, iMacs to me,
new graphics cards.
Yes,
too.
new graphics cards. But to me, iMacs have always been the best value. Even the one I have, I got this for about the same price, $2,700. And back then it was completely packed to the gills, fully spec'd out. And even without display, the 2560 by 1440, I mean, they sell the cinema displays for $1,000 on its own. So I'm paying what, $1,700 for that fully spec'd computer. I mean, you can't really beat it. It's really good pricing. I mean, you look at a 4K display now, and they're still about $3,000, $4,000.
Depends which one you get. I mean, the ones that they're going through Apple, it's the Samsung ones. I think they're not 3,000, right? If you bundle them in.
I forget.
I think they're similar to the Thunderbolt pricing.
No, they were 3,000 because if you look at the Mac Pro thing, it's about $3,000. But either way, it's still a good price. And then like I mentioned before, I had priced out one. I just did like an impulse buy. I did the upgraded CPU and the upgraded graphics, and it came out to about 3,000. Went on Apple's website as soon as the store went back up and purchased it. But then about an hour ago, I went and canceled that order. And the reasoning behind it is I just started getting... I have 3 displays right now. I have the iMac in the middle. I have 2 Thunderbolt displays on the side. Each have a resolution of 2560 by 1440. It's awesome. It's all matching resolutions, all Apple branded. Everything just works. Before
they're all like same height. That's a big thing.
I mean, the cinema displays are a little lower than the iMac. But if you look behind me, I used to have this as my secondary screen. That's a 1080p screen. When you match that with the iMac, it's different resolutions. When you move over windows and stuff, it gets bigger and smaller. Mac, you had a 720p before, 720p monitor with your MacBook. I mean, that's a big jump in resolution. So
yeah, I mean, I'd have a full screen window on my 720p, and I'd drag it over and it'd be like tiny. It'd be like that big. So I'd have to keep resizing things like all the time. I mean, 1080p and and Retina on the MacBook isn't as bad. That's for sure. But there's obviously still a noticeable size difference.
Yeah, and that's the main reason why I don't want to jump into 5K right now, because then I'll have this beautiful 5K display right in the middle. I'll have most of my stuff on here on my main monitor, and then I'll have on my peripherals two monitors with. I mean, right now they're good quality, they're good resolutions, but in comparison, it's going to be a complete garbage. If I move over a Chrome tab or a Skype or something, it's gonna jump in size. The text is gonna be as crisp. The pictures won't look as good. So
Yeah.
it's really tough. I really like how everything just works right now. The other thing is it's a first generation iMac. I've had two first generation iMacs. My previous one, when they went with the thin aluminum, and then they went with an even thinner one that I have now. Both of those were first generation devices. The screens, they've had issues. I mean, luckily I've been able to get replacements. They're dead pixels. The biggest thing is yellowing on the corners.
Yeah.
Like you'll see, like if you have a completely white screen, a corner of the screen will be kind of yellow, a yellow tinge to it. That was a big issue with a lot of people, and I gotta say, I kind of lost trust in Apple with their screen quality. I mean, even the iPads early on, like iPad 2s, they were having the same yellow issue. I don't trust them with first generation screens anymore. So I gotta figure there's gonna be some kind of issue. Maybe I'll wait to weed out all that stuff. And the third thing that I'm kind of worried about with this new iMac is it needs a lot to push this to power this screen. I mean, that's a high resolution screen. That's a lot of pixels. And it's using a mobile graphics card behind it. I don't really know how that's going to perform, when you're playing games and all that stuff or rendering videos.
I think that's why they're switching over to the AMD, because it's I don't know, it has more power towards doing one thing better, I believe. I mean, Intel's more of an overall graphics card, but AMD I know it can focus really well on certain things, and I'm sure it can push. I'm sure it's a really nice card. It's a R9 290X or 295X, which is their top of the line mobile card. It's similar to the 860M, so I'm sure it can do it easily, pretty well. But there's a lot of proprietary parts in these screens, and at a mass production rate, I'm sure a lot of things could go wrong. So, I mean, they invented a crap ton of parts for this to even work.
Yeah, a lot of engineering went behind it. And I don't normally buy protection plans, but I bought the Apple Care on this iMac, and it paid off because my screen, I woke up one Sunday, and my screen was just like a jumbled mess. Like, I've never seen something like this before. It wasn't even like, it just wouldn't turn on. It was like crap all over the place. So I brought it into the Apple store, and luckily it was under warranty, obviously, for another couple of years, and it replaced it no charge. If I didn't have Apple Care, it would have cost $700 to replace the screen. So you got to get the protection plan on these things where you can't even touch anything inside of these. So especially with the new one.
I mean, recently your screen had dead pixels, right?
Wasn't dead pixels. It was the yellowing thing, and also
and it was image retention.
Yes, image retention, which
that's
I mean, you expect that out of a plasma, an LED screen like this. Like if I left a Chrome window up too long, and I went to a different screen, you would see the border still there. And there was one part where actually it was permanent retention. It wasn't even like, after a while it would go away. And that's the point where I brought it into the Apple store to get it replaced the first time. The second time was the screen completely crapped out. So I've had the screen replaced twice on this thing in a matter of about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So that's enough. I don't know. I want to steer clear of a first generation device like this,
And having the biggest feature be the screen, I mean, there's a lot that could go wrong, and I mean, there's a lot that can change over time. I mean, who knows? Maybe 6 months from now they'll have a fatal flaw in their design and they have to re-release everything or something like that. I mean, it's all entirely possible. and I don't know. I feel like media's coverage will know about that sooner than later. So, like Ben Gate, that was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
especially now. But I mean, like,
Yeah,
but like the design is exactly the same with the iMac. They haven't changed the thickness of it. Everything's exactly the same. The only other thing is that Thunderbolt. There's a Thunderbolt 2 port on it as opposed to Thunderbolt 1, which is on this.
yeah,
But other than that, the only thing is the screen. And I don't think it's as big a jump performance wise from this to that computer, which was like a four. I expected it was like 4 gigahertz quad core i7. The graphics card he mentioned, and that's pretty much it. I already have a 1 terabyte fusion drive in this thing. I have like 24 gigs of RAM, which could have been ported over anyway. So I don't know. I don't use it enough to warrant like that kind of minimal upgrade. So I don't know. I think for me personally, I'd rather wait to get a Mac Pro and then get two 4K displays, and I'll be
yeah.
set. That's all I'll need. I mean,
Even with like in your situation right now, if you like really needed, say you were like kind of sick of your 2012, the power wasn't that great for you, and you wanted to upgrade to a later system, for you, I'd recommend the Mac Pro over an iMac because Mac Pro is a lot more future proof, and also, for you, I know that you've been wanting to build a PC for a while, and with everything soldered in on the newer Mac products, the Mac Pro is kind of the way to go because you can replace everything in that. It's like an old-fashioned desktop.
yeah.
Which I know you would like. Instead of having to drop cash on a brand new Mac every other year, you can just buy better parts. And who knows? Maybe next year, or 2 years from now, instead of putting down $1,000 to a new Mac, you could put $1,000 towards a really awesome overclockable, I don't know, CPU or GPU or something.
Yeah, I've been wanting to build a computer, a PC for a while. I just don't want to go back to Windows. So the Mac Pro would be the closest thing to that experience. I think I'm done with all-in-one computers. I want to bring my own display sort of thing where I'm not tied to a certain specification. Because for the longest time, when I had this as my secondary monitor with my iMac, it really pissed me off. Like having the mismatching monitors. Even just the fact that that's a matte display and this is a glossy display. It just was. It was. It kind of looks like an iMac. That's why I got it. It kind of looks like a Mac this device. But other than that, they couldn't be further apart from being similar, if you know what I mean. So now that I have two Thunderbolt displays, I have everything pretty much uniform, and that really is what I want in my setup. I don't know if you guys ever watched my home office setup, but I like to have things really simple, really clean, and it bothered me for the longest. So now that I have it how I want it, I don't want to go right away and spend $3,000 on something that's going to break that continuity, so to speak,
Yeah. Plus, with all these displays, you can obviously see with the release of a 5K display, I don't think 4K is going to be around that long. We're just kind of going up in pixel size, in the amount of pixels in our screens. I think it's only a couple of years before we're above 5K. So I feel like those are going to be rapidly evolving. And if you get locked into one thing now, I feel like you'll be behind in 2 or 3 years already.
Yeah,
so.
That's why I was kind of skeptical about getting this iMac to begin with. Granted, it was 2 years ago, so
yeah,
I've gotten my money's worth out of this Mac. If I were to sell it now, I would be perfectly happy selling it because I've gotten a lot of use out of this thing.
Yeah,
I've done all these podcasts and videos and stuff like so. It's gotten my money's worth. But yeah, I don't want to be tied down to a single display, a single resolution that I have to worry about matching. If I get the Mac Pro, I could get 2 displays, just have those, and that's all. I don't even need 3. 2 is fine for me.
and just think, with Thunderbolt, you can have up to 8, 6,
something like that.
6.
I know definitely 6.
6.
Yeah, 6 4K displays.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they didn't. The other thing is they didn't announce a new Thunderbolt display, which I understand the 5K is too much bandwidth. It's not the Thunderbolt 2 is not even enough bandwidth to support a 5K display. That's why they didn't do that. But just the fact that the Thunderbolt display is still the thick, like the old iMac, how it used to be really thick. They haven't even made it
And
thinner. There's no internal parts to it. So
and that it's $1,000
yeah,
still.
it's
And what's the resolution? 1440p, right?
yeah, it's a 2560 by 1440.
Come on, man.
Yeah. So that I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that. Are they gonna wait to maybe release a Thunderbolt 3 that can support the bandwidth of 5K?
Yeah.
But as of right now, the only internal Apple uh, solution for someone that needs really high resolution stuff is an iMac.
So,
Like not even a Mac Pro can do that. I mean, you can buy other
or
stuff.
$4,000 sharp display.
Yeah, but there's nothing in house with Apple that will suffice for someone that need a power user that needs high resolution screens.
I feel like Apple's displays are overpriced anyway. And they always have been for what you're getting. Like the Cine display is cool, like way back in the day. It's like what, '06? That's when that came out. And I mean that was cool. It had good color range and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like they're not up with times on displays because you can find 4K monitors out there for like $500, $600, and the fact that they still have like one of the first gen 4K displays for 3600 or whatever it is. I don't know. That's kind of disappointing. They should have different lines of that stuff.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The Thunderbolt display is a good monitor. It's really good quality, but yeah, it's been around for so long. You would figure maybe a price cut, maybe like $800.
I think that like 600 or 700 would be even more.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, even if it was
applicable.
$800, I mean, it's something right now. $1,000 on something that's been out for 2 or 3 years. It's tough to bite.
And the fact that like they're making all this new technology for displays, but they couldn't take the time to figure out how to put it into a standalone display. That's kind of annoying because what if someone had an iMac and they were like, oh, like you, with the new 5K iMac, they wanted to have external displays, so they just went and bought a Thunderbolt display, and then they're realizing, oh crap, this is like way less than half of what my main monitor is. So it's like, whoops, I can't really use that. There's $1,000.
So it's kind of we're really in between. Like it's tough. If you just want the iMac and you're fine with just one screen that's 5K, a gorgeous display, then it's awesome. But if you've had multiple monitors in your setup, you know it's tough to go back to a single monitor. No matter how big the resolution is, no matter how wide the screen is, there's nothing like having two separate monitors that you can have one as your main display with all your stuff that you use day to day, and then second, like on my second screen, I'll have Twitter on it all the time open. I'll have Skype maybe on it, stuff that I'll just glance at quickly, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you get used to that workflow in your setup, and once you cut that second display back to one, you kind of feel like you're at a disadvantage again, But that's my dilemma. That's why I canceled my order. I'm gonna wait. Eventually, I'll get a Mac Pro and then 2 4K displays and call it a day, and I'll be set for like 10 years, hopefully. At that point,
Yeah, I mean, you can always just do part here, part there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that I'll be able to upgrade CPU, whatever it is.
Like if the GPU ever gets to a point, the dual GPUs get to a point where they can't handle the whatever resolution screens that we have, eventually they'll hopefully release another set of graphics cards,
Yeah. And also, if I do get 4K displays, and let's say down the road there's 6K or 8K or whatever the hell, hypothetically speaking, I don't have to throw out my whole computer just to get another monitor, a different spec, that's the one thing that really upsets me in all-in-ones. It's great, it's really simplistic, but in my setup, I don't really need an all-in-one. It kind of doesn't make sense. I have enough room to hide the Mac Pro in the back, even though I probably wouldn't hide it. It's so gorgeous. But you know what I mean? I don't need something that's really thin. If I just had that one display, that would make sense because it's all in one. There's not extra bulk over the place. It really depends on your setup. And
yeah,
I don't know. I just, as much as I love the iMac, this will be my last one. I will sell this down the road and get the Mac Pro and call it a day.
Yeah, I mean your computer's still really good, but it's, like it was the top spec as was 680. It's a dedicated graphics card. It's not a mobile. Um, what do you have for RAM? You have
24
24
gigs. I
gigs.
upgraded that. 3.4
Uh,
gigahertz quad core i7 and a GeForce 680 MX 2 gigahertz video RAM.
I mean that's still a really good system. It's just that I mean the age factor with Macs, I feel like it degrades it so much. With like 3 years of age, it's already old looking. Like if you look at the older MacBooks, say you got a 2012 or 2011 MacBook Pro, those things are bulky.
Well, yeah, especially the MacBooks. I mean, those really they went
Age.
from the MacBook Pro to the MacBook Pro Retina, which was super thin. That's a big jump. I mean,
Yeah,
with the iMac and the iMac Retina, the actual form factor is the same. It's just the screen was upgraded. So it's really tough to warrant if you already have an iMac like this to jump. I don't know. It's tough. But enough about that. I just want to cover a couple other little things that were announced or not announced.
yeah,
Interesting enough, nothing about the Apple TV was announced, which I've always been saying that next year will be the year of the Apple TV. Next year, this time, I think probably either September or October. I'm thinking September, just like how they did with the Apple Watch. They're kind of like
yeah.
throw it in there, like at the end.
I think they're waiting until 4K and up resolutions become more widely accepted in media, because right now it's very limited. On YouTube, you'll find some 4K stuff, but it's hard to stream that if you don't have a pretty good connection, um, which I know a lot of places in the world don't have good connections. Like even my connection is like godly in some places. I know UK, my connection would be godly, but in the US, it's like average or a little below average. Um, but yeah, I think they're just waiting out as they normally do, waiting for other companies to mess up first so they can uh, improve off of other people's mistakes, which is a big Apple thing that they do.
Well, I just want to throw this out there also. I work for a media company. I'm not going to say which one, but I work for a media company. I've been included on some emails internally that have. There are some executives in my company that have are working with Apple. Because Apple really are reaching out to media companies to provide certain content for their services going forward. Like on the Apple TV right now, you have different channels. You have like Disney Channel app, you have ESPN app. It looks like going forward, they're going to want more content to push out. But I've come across a couple of emails internally that have said these executives are going to get hands on with a new Apple TV hardware. Which I mean, I came across that, I got goosebumps. Like, holy shit, dude, this is awesome. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, how often do you actually get like firsthand experience, hands on with an Apple product like way before it's even rumored? So I don't know how much information I'm gonna get, but all I know is this: it looks like there's something really big coming up for the Apple TV. Because
yeah,
if it was just like a regular Apple TV and they just called the Apple TV 4 and it was a minimal upgrade, it's not a huge deal. But for people to want to see this new hardware, what it's capable of, therefore structuring different content. What do you call those contracts?
oh
Jeez.
yeah, yeah.
The
Well, they're very strict on that type of stuff, though. Like with early, you obviously saw in today's keynote, two companies, two small development companies, got the iPad Air 2s, and they've obviously had it for months. If they're developing whole apps around this, and they obviously have very strict contracts with this. Like if they sent out a single thing of the iPad 2 or the iPad Air 2, they would probably get like cease and desist or whatever it is for their company. They'd probably get ultimately super sued. So I feel like a lot of this stuff is going to be very like uptight until it actually is released.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be careful. I'm not going to share everything I come across, but it's really vague. I could just be, making up rumors right now. But this is,
Yeah.
it's so vague at this point. I think I can kind of say that it looks like and it seems like there's something big in the pipeline for the Apple TV. And I've been saying this for the last year now. Like, I really think this is going to be more than just a standalone set-top box. It's going to be like a pass-through device that will power your TV, that will connect with all your Macs and the entire ecosystem in Apple. So I'm looking forward to that next year. There was nothing hinted at that this year. Apple Watch, I mean, just this 2015.
They kind of like touched on it. He's like, "Oh yeah, use the Apple Watch. Let me just use that." It'll be
really, it's teasing
be released
us.
next year.
Really teasing us, but it's just early 2015. So we got.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet March probably it'll be released.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I know some people were really looking forward to is the Mac Mini update, which was really, really long overdue. I mean,
And they didn't really do that
no,
much.
but it is a big update because the Mac Mini doesn't have any sort of dedicated graphics card. So the fact that it has the Haswell Iris graphics, that is a big upgrade for them. Coming from the integrated HD 5000, 4000 to an Iris, that's a huge jump. Like, you can actually do some gaming on it. You know, you're not much, but still, it's better than what it was.
You'll have trouble with Minecraft.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's alright.
But like, I know a lot of people, they wanted something that's really basic. They don't want an all-in-one iMac. They don't need a laptop. They want a desktop that they use their own monitors and stuff like that. And starting at $500, I mean, it's really not that bad of a price for a Mac. So you're getting the full experience. I know we priced it out. It can go up to $2,000, and I mean, at that point, you might as well get an iMac. But I mean,
we made one for 3,200, and it was still subpar. It was still a dual core i7 with 32 gigs of RAM, and it was like,
why bother? I mean, granted, with that bundle, it had a cinema display, Thunderbolt display, but I mean, there was no graphics card in it, so. At $3,000, I would much rather have the iMac I spec'd out. I mean,
to be honest, if I had a choice, if like I had to buy either $3,000 Mac Mini or like a Windows, I'd go for Windows.
Oh yeah. There's no way I'm spending $3,000 that includes a Mac Mini. There's absolutely no way. But, you know, I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. That's an awesome upgrade. It's just like, why couldn't you do that like last year or even in the springtime? You know, it's nothing groundbreaking. But
yeah, I mean, they could have like just waited it out a little bit and maybe went with some Maxwell architecture. That'd been kind of cool.
Or was it Broadwell's the next one? I think
Broadwell.
Yeah. That's what I thought they were going to do. They were just going to wait for the Broadwell chips, but I think that got kind of delayed, so maybe that's why they went with this, the Haswell, finally. But, you know, there's a lot there. I mean, if you're an Apple person, today is a really expensive day for you. So it almost was for me. I was about to spend, $3,500 for an iPad.
I was like, Rich, you should just wait for a Mac Pro. It's like the same
you didn't
price.
Say that to me. I came up with that by myself, so stop it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just wait it out.
I think that's pretty much it for the keynote.
Yeah, it was an awesome keynote, and there were no live stream issues this time, luckily. So I watched it uninterrupted, which was awesome. I think they finally learned from their mistakes. But yeah, there was no issues at all, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, I could touch on some little tech news. As we were talking about like internal things, well, I know the headhunter. I talked with Rich about this a while ago, but I know the headhunter for Microsoft, Google, EA, Facebook, that type of stuff. And if you don't know what headhunter is, he pretty much finds people to work there because they don't want to just accept applications. Anyway, so if you guys don't know, a while ago, Facebook bought the Oculus Rift, and everyone's kind of like pissed. It's like, oh yeah, they're not gonna support the games and stuff. But I heard through the pipeline that Facebook's actually gonna be working on some sort of pay-per-view sports type thing. So it's like bleachers, bleacher side seating or whatever you want to call it, court side, and it'll be like a pay-per-view game. So if that comes through, then that's kind of cool. But yeah, so that's my little.
And that would be right up my alley. I mean, it's.
Yeah, dude. If you could have like home plate seats at any Yankees game, sitting at your house, so you can just like
Oh,
you can just look around, be like, all right, this is kind of cool, like a 360-degree camera.
yeah.
That would be really cool. Or actually, it could almost, if they had one where it was just like a bubble, like the Google Maps
Yeah.
car, where it's just literally all over. That would be sweet.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, I would love to have season tickets to the Yankees, but it's so far from me, and like during the week it would
Yeah.
be a pain to get there. So I watch on TV all the time. If I had something like that, I would be in heaven. I mean, watching football with that type of, oh man, I can't wait.
But yeah, I heard that through an official like headhunter, so it was
Yeah.
like
I mean,
that's kind
once
of
the
cool.
technology's there and it's like, full 1080p or maybe even, God forbid, 4K resolution,
Yeah.
that would be the ultimate at-home experience. I probably would never leave the house, quite honestly.
You'd be like that'd be like the beginning of you remember the movie Wall-E?
Yes.
All the fat people on the little floating
Yeah.
scooters with like the milkshakes that would have like all the meals. That'd be like us, except we'd have glasses on all the time,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't even have to do sports. Like, what is sports?
It is sports.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But yeah, man, there's a lot to go over, so that was awesome, man. I thought this was a great show. And I don't know. Next week we'll talk about probably Nexus 7. I really wanted to touch it.
Or not Nexus
6.
Nexus
What is 7.
This is a Nexus.
Oh,
7.
yes, I got those. Mixed up. But yeah, anything else you want to close out with?
I think that's about it. Thanks for everyone in the stream. Couple shout outs for people who showed up in the comment section. We got John Harrison, Kaylee Plays, and David B. So thanks guys all for chatting
you.
in the comments a little bit, and we hope to see you all next week.
Yes, we'll be here with a whole new episode of Generation Tech, and we'll
Yep.
see you guys next time.